Good morning to all of you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
In the previous class, we were discussing about the basic concept of management and administration. Side by side, we have tried it to link with the educational management and administration as well. So, this class we will start with the queries or a question if you have from the previous class, because in the previous class we were not able to take the queries or a question from you people. Only I remember that Chitra was able to ask the question, and I have not taken the queries and question of other student. So, if you have a question or a query from the yesterday class, you just ask me, otherwise we will proceed towards the basic definition of educational management as it is given by the some of the eminent scholars, and then we will move towards the scope and other thing of the educational management. Do you have any query from the previous class? Are you able to get me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please ask.
No, sir.
Yes, sir. No, sir. Means what, sir?
I have no questions, sir. Previously, I have asked questions.
Okay. So, I will move towards the next thing in this concept, and if you have a query even with this class or the previous class, you just
Sir, I have one question.
yes, ask me.
The management and administration have a mutual relationship. How?
Yes. How it has a mutual
Please explain
relationship?
again.
I think that I have explained the concept that how the administration and management have are interrelated and the mutual relationship, because when we talk about the administration is concerned with the framing the policy level decision, framing the objectives, like kind of a thing. Okay. And when we talk about the management, I have explained that management is basically related to the execution part of the policy or objective which is framed by the administrator. So, administrators are the determinant, means they determine the policy, what kind of a policy will be there, what will be the objective will be there, like kind of a thing, and the management is responsible to execute those things. So, you just think of that in absence of a management, administrator cannot function properly, because whatever they are framing that needs to be executed to get the fruitful result, because behind framing something, behind formulating the objective and a philosophy and that the policy, we have some kind of output that we visualize that this kind of objective I am trying to get. But in absence of the management, administrator cannot get the work done and cannot achieve those objectives. This is that how the administrators are dependent on the management, and in absence of the proper management, even the administrator cannot take a proper decision on the execution part, that what needs to be executed, what needs to be done, and what they will do in order to achieve what kind of objective. So, administrators are also dependent upon the management, and the management is also dependent upon the administrator. So, in that sense, both of them are interrelated and both of them have a mutual relationship. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Apart from that, any other things?
Sir,
No, sir.
sir, I have a question.
Yes, please ask.
Sir, in school management and school administration, management and school administration, who are the members of both, sir, specifically?
Specifically, when we talk about the management includes the principal or a headmaster, then the representative of the administrators. I will give the specific example also, administrator, and as per the RTE Act, the management also includes the member of the society, member of the SMDC, that is a committee, and the parents of the teachers, parents of the student, and the locally available the educationist. They constitute the management part of the school. Specifically, when we talk, suppose that if it is a state government school, obviously the representative of the parents of the student will be there. Representatives of the teacher will be there, teachers representative, parents representative, society representative, one educationist available in that locality will be there, and the representative from the administrator, that is like a BEO, block education officer, or the person appointed for representing the DEO, like that they constitute the management part. When we talk about the central school like Kendriya Vidyalayas or the Navodaya Vidyalayas, they also have a representative of the parents, they also have a representatives of the teacher, and there they have a one nominated representative of the Kendriya Vidyalaya Samiti or the Navodaya Vidyalaya Samiti. So, in that sense we frame the management body of the school. When we talk about the administrative body, so administrative body they have the director of regional director of the, suppose that we are taking account of the Kendriya Vidyalaya or the Navodaya Vidyalaya, so they will have a representative of the director. Generally director, they itself don't take part into the this body, they used to appoint the representatives. So, the representative of the director of that particular concerned division will be there. Then the representatives from the each of the schools will be there, if it is a Navodaya or the Kendriya Vidyalayas, and the representatives of the teaching faculty will be there, one representatives, and the representative of the non-teaching members will be also there, means each part will be representative, and the representatives from the ministry concerned will be also there. Suppose that if it is a state government run school, then the representative from the MHRD of that particular state or the education ministry of that particular state will be there. And if it is a central government school like a Navodaya or Kendriya Vidyalaya, then the representative of the MHRD will be there, which is now the education ministry. Okay. So, they this type of representatives comes and they constitute the administrative part of the school. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other thing? Okay, so I think now we can proceed towards the next thing in this administration and the management. Till now we have discussed about that management and administration are two concepts, but nowadays they are used interchangeably also, because they are very much interdependent and interrelated to each other. That is the one thing. And we have also discussed that administration is the highest authority, and in that hierarchy the management is the lower in the lower hierarchy. Management is basically responsible for execution, and the administration is basically responsible for determinative part. Okay. When we see that the definition of now we will move towards the formal definition of the educational management, as I have told you after seeing that the different difference between these two terms. So, when we see the different scholars who have worked in the area of educational management, they have come up with a different kind of a definition. And why it is a difference? Because the area itself is evolving. Okay, it's already in the developmental phase, and we have already seen that the management includes the sociological perspective, the philosophical perspective, the economical perspective. Okay. So, this kind of a perspective is included in the management part. We cannot ignore the social perspective, we cannot ignore the financial perspective, as well as the social and the philosophical and the psychological perspective as well. So, but whatever the definition, 2-3 definitions we will be seeing here, whatever the definition we will see, it will include all the concepts that which we have discussed till now. Okay. So, there is a one of the definition as per the Sally Uman, that is she has worked and formulated in 1972. As per her opinion, the management implies an orderly way of a thinking. As already we have discussed that the management is basically responsible for the execution part. So, it is the orderly way of a thinking, means whatever the direction from the policy, from the objective which is framed by the administration is there, that they have to execute that. It also describes the operational term, what is to be done, how it is to be done, and how we know when we have done. See, this sentence covers all the perspective. What is to be done means it will be coming from the policy, it will be coming from the objective. Then how it is to be done means the way of execution, because whenever we are framing any strategy for executing the work, we must know that what are the different strategies to get the work done, and what will be the pros and cons of those strategy. Means it may be possible that there are a variety of a strategy to get a work done, but some may have a more time consuming, some may have a more financial implication, some may require a more human resource, more material resource, like kind of a thing. So, we have to judiciously decide that which kind of a strategy we are going to adapt in order to get the work done. So, that is how it is to be done, and how we know when it is to be done. When we have done means the reflection part. You have to reflect on it, that when and how you have done and what was the output, and how the output can be enhanced. Okay. That is, management is not an acron musque, it is the method of operation. Good management should result in an orderly integration of the education and society, because obviously we think that the educational institutes are the offshoot of a society, it is a miniature society. So, whatever that we are doing in educational institutes must be aligned with the societal need, must represent the society, must be in line with the financial condition, social condition, psychological condition, and all those things of a society. We cannot ignore the socio-economic status of the society. We cannot ignore the in which area that society is their existing, means the geographical location or the societal norms kind of a thing. So, all those things we have to take into the account. That is that we have to integrate the education and society. Whatever the activities we are doing in the educational institute, let it be the recruitment, let it be the curriculum transaction, let it be the admission or the examination or the evaluation, whatever it is, it must be in line with the societal need. If the education that we are imparting, it is not fulfilling the societal need, then I think there is a very less meaning of imparting those kind of education. So, that needs to be considered. Again, when we talk about the Paul Monneray, that is they have given the definition in 1913. As per them, a school management as a body of educational doctrine comprise a number of principles and precepts relating to primarily techniques of classroom procedures and delivered largely from the practice of successful teaching. They define that the basic principle of the educational management is related to the techniques of classroom procedures, means the classroom transaction, and delivered largely to the practice of successful teacher. It has some inner meaning also. When we talk about the classroom transaction, classroom procedure, it will always include the pedagogy, it will always include the content, it will also include the curriculum, it will also include the co-curricular and the curricular aspect of the teaching learning process. And it also talks about the largely from the practice of successful teacher, means whatever the way you are doing the work, the way you are discharging the work, how it is beneficial for the student, means it is a kind of the teacher effectiveness, and the teaching effectiveness will be measured on the basis of the how your delivery of the content is beneficial for the student in a smaller context and to the society in the large context. So, these things needs to be taken care. Again, the Paul Monneray says that is okay. So, Paul Monneray is now over. Now, there is another definition that is by G. Terry Page and J. B. Thompson. Okay. And they says that International Dictionary of Education, they says that educational management is a theory and a practice of the organization and administration of existing establishment and a system. So, they talk that it is a theory and a practice of organizing and the way of administrating the educational establishment and a system. So, how the way you are administrating. So, see here, already I have talked that when we talk about the administration, it talks about the framing the policy and objective. When we talk about the management, it is the part of the executing. So, in the Thompson and Terry Page words, it is a practice of administrating the educational establishment and a system, means how you are administrating, how you are administrating means the part of the executing, how you are executing the policy level decision and the objectives of the educational institute to achieve a certain goal, because whatever the objective and policy we will be framing, that will be obviously linked with the some outcome. So, how you are planning for the outcome, how you are going for the outcome. So, that is that. One more thing you have noticed, that when I was talking about the Paul Moneret, that is was in the 1913. Again I have talked about the Sally Oman, that was in 1972. At last I have talked about that Terry, Pace and Thompson. So, you must have seen that when I was talking about the Paul Moneret, it was little bit narrow in the sense. When I was talking Oman, it was little bit broader, and when I was talking about the Terry Pace and J.B. Thompson, it was again broader. So, that is why I was emphasizing the concept of educational management is still evolving. It has not come to the full bloom, and it includes the different aspect like that I was talking about, the sociological part, the economical part, the philosophical part, the cultural norms, the kind of a thing. And that is why we see that the way of organizing a school in a different part of a country has a little bit different. It is not much different, because ultimately we have to fulfill the mandate of the constitution from which we are binded. So, we have to go with the mandate of the constitution. So, that is why it will not differ much, but there will be some different in organizing the way of organization of a school. Okay. So, that is the one part that we have covered. Now, before proceeding towards the next component, again I will like to take your queries and a question, so that whatever the confusion or whatever the clarification is needed, that will be cleared here only. Yes, please, if you have any question, please raise the question.
Sir, actually, I am science background, so I cannot understand that how educational management is.
आशुतोष, हाँ, हेलो आशुतोष, बोलने समय थोड़ा लाउडली बोलिए और थोड़ा सा पॉज दे करके बोलिए. ऐसे आप बोलते हैं ना, नथिंग आई एम एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड रियली. थोड़ा पॉज दे करके लाउडली बोलिए. हाँ, प्लीज.
Sir, actually, I am a science student, so I can't understand about how educational management is linked with the sociology and philosophy and etc.
So, as I am able to get from you, that is your question is how the management is linked with the sociology, philosophy, like kind of a thing. Is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, see, whenever you are managing a school or whenever you are running a school, so obviously it will come a two-part, management and administration. So, for the moment I am not differentiating the management and administration, because both are linked, but when we think of organizing a school, you must think that what is the social condition, socio-economic condition, what is the economical condition, what is the cultural norms. Suppose that in some part of a society, I will give you a specific example also, or later I will build the answer on the basis of example only. See, in the some part of our country, sitting boys and girls at an adolescent stage was not felt good. It was not felt good, and it has been seen in the research that since the boys and girls are studying and sitting in a single classroom, so the parents of those girls, they were demotivated and they have stopped sending their girls at a adolescent stage, means you can think of class 8 to 9, 10, 11, 12 like kind of thing, and in the higher classes also, and they have stopped sending their girl child to the school and a college. And the reason identified was that it was not as per the cultural norm of that particular society, and that's why the need of establishing girls school, girls college has emerged, because to suit, because when we see that, when we are talking about the inclusive society, inclusive is school, when we treat that the boys and girls both are equal, and in fact they are equal, it is not a treating them, in fact they are equal, irrespective of the some of the biological changes, that is the gift of a nature, but in fact both of them are same, but because of the cultural norm, the parents of the girl child they were not sending, and that's why the need of establishing a girls school and a girls college was felt, and it was established. So how it was established? By seeing the cultural norm of the society. Second example I will give you, when you will see that the new education policy 86 has recommended the establishment of Navodaya Vidyalaya, and the reason of Navodaya Vidyalaya that was argued in the NPE 86 was, there are so many rural talent is there, they are talented, the rural talent is there in the village, in fact it is there, but due to unavailability of the quality educational institute, quality schools, they were not going to the school, and their talent was not nurtured. That's why it was thought that we should establish a residential school, because in the village they have a problem of electricity, they have a problem of healthy and hygienic studying environment, they have a problem of economical problem also, because they cannot go to the school daily basis, and they can if they will be at home, they are supposed to do some the work related to that family. I am not saying that doing a work related to the family is a something bad thing, but in order to nurture those child, it was supposed that it will be better if we establish a residential school. So it is based upon the socio-economic status of the society, socio-economic perspective of the children and the student, and that's why the Navodaya Vidyalayas had been established. When you will find that even the curriculum transaction procedure and the content which is the part of the curricular activity, even the co-curricular activity, it is also aligned with the socio-cultural norms of the society. When you will go to the northeastern state, you see the textbook of the Odisha state also, you see the textbook of the Bihar and Jharkhand and UP also. In order to inculcate the same value, same thing, different kind of a example is taken, different kind of a curricular transaction modality is there, because the one example may not suit the every section of a society. And I remember that during my class, I have given so much of example related to the curriculum transaction procedure. I have also given an example that when we teach the small kids A for apple, the tribal student, they may not have seen the apple. So when they will learn A for apple, APPLE, they will only remember they so there is some fruit which is named apple, whose spelling is APPLE. That's all. The concept formation about the apple may not happen. because they have not seen apple, or if you will show the picture, it will be representing the only one variety of a apple, but apples are of a different shape, size, taste, color. And I remember when I used to take the B.Ed class, I have asked to you people also, I was asking to the RI student also, when I asked that how many of you have seen the green apple, majority of the students say that sir, I have not seen, I have not tasted. So see that what kind of a concept formation is going to happen. So it is a kind of a rote learning. So we have to, that's why in the latter part of the management we will see it have a different aspect of the related to the curriculum transaction, aspect related to the managing the human resources, and so many things are there in the educational management. One by one we will be seeing. So 2-3 examples that which I have given here, it is just to illustrate that if we will not take into the account of the particular society where the school is established, then the effectiveness of the school management and administration will be always in question. So whatever the policy, whatever the objective we are framing, and the way we are implementing, that is the management part, the way we are implementing, it must be linked with the economical part, socio-cultural part, cultural norms, philosophical part, psychological part, all those things are related. Ashutosh, is it clear to you?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, okay. I am seeing someone has posted in the message, Pallavi, social is the school is the social subsystem. Yes, because school represents the society. So whatever the need of a society is there, that must be taken care. Simply, yes, you are very right, Pallavi, because it's a miniature society, no? So in order to have a effective school management, we must see the need and requirement of the society. Mona Lisa is saying what are the characteristics and scheme of educational management. Characteristics we will be seeing in the latter part of the discussion. There are some component. So one by one I am going through. Your question will be answered some moment of a time. Okay. Anything, or shall we go further?
सर
Okay.
सर वो क्वेश्चन था सर आउट ऑफ कॉन्टेक्स्ट है
क्या है?
सर मैंने we talk about the inclusive education system and gender equality, and we go to girls high school, boys high school separately. Sir, how the social how we think about educational management system, we do better or not?
Ashutosh, your voice is really, I am unable to understand. Please put in the chat box. Okay, please put in the chat box, I will reply. I am now going to discuss the aspect of education management. You just put before ending the class, I will take your question. Okay, while I will be discussing, you put your question. Okay, so till now we have seen the basic concept of educational management and administration, and also we have seen that what is the management and administration as a whole. These two things we have already seen. Now it is a time to discuss. Now we will discuss about the aspect of educational management. What are the different aspects that I was talking about? Okay. So the aspect of educational management means that what are the different part of the educational management, means in the educational management what are the different things that we are managing. Okay, because educational management is the whole concept which includes the different kind of a work to be done in order to function the educational institution holistically in a right manner. Okay. So, in order to function the educational institute, what are the different things that we have to see? So, that we will see. One of the thing that is the very much important and essential is that the management of a human resource. Okay. So, I do not nowadays you must be knowing that the Ministry of Human Resource Development is renamed as the Ministry of Education, because this document does not endorse that humans are a resource. This document says that human are not a resource. Okay. So, I do not know how much it will be justifiable to use the term the management of a human resource. So, better you can understand the management of the employee, you can understand with that. But I think that in my opinion management of a human resource is a broader term, which okay, but let it be, it is a philosophical debate. So, that is not the part of this discussion. We can have the that discussion in some other time, whether the humans are resource or not a resource. But when we talk about the management of the employee, see, it requires various aspect to be looked into the managing the employee, right from the identifying the different kind of a work needs to be done in the school, different kind of a competency required from the employee. For sake of example, you can think of that when we were talking about the teacher in the earlier time, we were thinking that having a sound understanding of a content is sufficient enough to be a effective teacher. And when we were recruiting the teacher for any educational institute, we were only focusing on the content knowledge of the teacher. Suppose that if I am recruiting for the mathematics class, taking the mathematics class, so I will be testing about that how the teacher is sound in the mathematical knowledge. But as and when the researches has been taken in this area, it is found that being sound in the content is not sufficient enough. What are the other necessary things? We must be very sound in the pedagogical aspect of the content also. And the pedagogy of a different discipline differs. The pedagogy of a mathematics differs from the science. The pedagogy of science and mathematics differs from the language. Similarly, it also differs from the social science. So, these are the pedagogical differences, and the time came when we started thinking that in order to recruit a good teacher, we have to see the content part as well as we have to see the pedagogical aspect also. Side by side, the time came and we started thinking that even the having the good pedagogical skill and a content knowledge is not sufficient enough. The teacher must be capable of handling the ICT tool for providing the more richer experience, learning experience, rich learning experience. So, we have started thinking of testing and assessing the ICT skills while recruiting the teacher. During this pandemic situation, we have realized that even the content is not sufficient, even the pedagogical skill is also not very much sufficient, even the idea of ICT skill is also not sufficient. What is much more required? That a teacher must be very competent enough to organize the teaching learning process through the online medium, through the blended medium. So, it is required now to that teacher must be very much competent enough to organize the teaching learning process through the blended medium, online medium. They must have an idea of the LMS, they must be able to take the online classes, they must be able to record the video, edit the video, disseminate the video, prepare the self learning materials, like kind of a thing. So, see, it depends upon the objective of what kind of a work you want to be done with the employers. Similarly, when we talk about the non-teaching staff, earlier knowing the skill of a typing was sufficient enough for being a LDC or a UDC, and gradually it has changed that you must be very much competent enough in handling the ICT gadgets and a tool and a computer and all those kind of a thing for the effective management of the institution. You must have an idea of a database management even. Nowadays it is emerging. So, this is the scenario. It is changing with the demand. With the demand, the objective changes, that what kind of a employee you want, and similarly based upon the objective we look those type of a quality in the employee when we are employing a new human resource. So, it is changing over the period. So, when we talk about the management of an employee or management of a human resource, it includes all the things related to the recruitment. While recruitment, you will see what kind of a thing you need in an in-service training, like suppose that you have recruited a teacher or some staff, even the non-teaching staff 10 years back, they were competent enough as per the requirement of that time, but they may not be competent enough as per the requirement of this time. So, organizing a refresher course, organizing a in-service training program, organizing a capacity building training program, organizing a faculty development program is also comes under the management of a human resource. When we talk about the management of a human resource, the job satisfaction level, how the job satisfaction level will come, the work environment should be very healthy, work pressure should be justifiable, means the strength of the, because the work pressure is directly linked with the amount of work and the number of staff you have for discharging that particular work. So, that should be very appropriate. Salary condition should be appropriate, justifiable. It should not be very much low, because if it is a low, their job satisfaction will be affected. Okay. Even the job satisfaction is also linked with the in-service training program and a development program. Suppose that I am not competent, suppose that now I am taking an online class, but I am feeling incompetency in taking the online classes. So, it will create the anxiety in me, because whatever the work I am supposed to discharge, I am feeling that I am incapable of discharging those work. So, it will lead to the anxiety, and the anxiety will be directly linked to the performance, my performance and the job satisfaction. So, ultimately it will hamper the institute even, because if I am not able to discharge the work, I am in the anxiety, my job satisfaction level is low, obviously it is going to hamper the quality of work done, the work done for the institution. Okay. Even when we talk about the management of a human resource, here the involvement of the PTA, parent teacher association, also come into the limelight. How it come into the limelight? Because when we talk about the involvement of a community in the management of the educational institute. So, in that sense, the involvement of a community in the management of educational institute is visualized on the philosophy that the community is also a rich source of a learning for not only the educational institute, but the children who are learning in the educational institute, and their support enhances the management and the functioning of the institution. Their support, their guidance, sometimes they used to guide also, sometimes they used to show the path also, sometimes they are able to suggest some modality of functioning of the school also, because they are the guiding agent. So, if the integration of the parent teacher association, or better to say that the community is not there, then the functioning of the institution may also happen. And that is why when you will see the school education, it is mandatory to have the involvement of a society, to have the involvement of the previous student, that is who is the alumni of the school. Even it is mandatory to have a representative of the teachers, representative of the parents. It is a mandatory now. When you will see the higher educational institute and when you will go for the NAC accreditation, it is the mandatory column that whether you have a alumni association or not, whether in the management part the alumni of the institute is involved in or not, whether the educationist from the local area is involved or not, all those things are taken into account and all those things are seen. Okay. So, it is not only for the school education as well as for the higher education also. So, the point of saying is that when we talk about the management of a human resource, it ranges from the various perspective: management of the teaching faculty, their recruitment, their in-service training program, their salary, even their after retirement life. Okay. The involvement of the community member, involvement of the parents, involvement of the specialist in from the different area, involvement of the student representatives, involvement of the alumni representatives, even involvement of the different official of the governing body. Suppose that if it is the government school, state government school, so representative from the government, that the DEO, BEO will be there. If it is a central school, then the representatives from the Kendriya Vidyalaya Samiti and the Navodaya Vidyalaya Samiti. So, these all comes under the management of the human resource, and if all these are managed in the holistic way, in the fruitful way, then only we can say that the school will function in a well manner. Okay. So, that is the all about the management of a human resource, and I think other aspect of the management we will see in the some other class, in the next class. Now, we have time for the question answer session. One question that was from the Asutosh. We talk about the gender equality, but we build girls and boys school separately. Sir, is it fault of the management or administration? See, Asutosh, your question is a very genuine. We always talk about the equal society. We always talk about the inclusive philosophy. And when we talk about the inclusive philosophy, the establishing girls' school or a boys' school is not justifiable. Even when we talk about the inclusive schooling, establishing a special school is also not justifiable. But sometime it is also required that in order to achieve the highest objective, we have to sometime adjust with the lowest thing, or sometime we have to adjust with that thing for some moment of a time, because it is that when this girls school, I am talking about the NPE 86, at that time when you will see the census report, the literacy rate of a girl was very low. The dropout rate after elementary schooling was very high for the girls. It was very high dropout rate, and even when we were moving towards the higher education, it was very high dropout rate. So the ultimate goal of that time was somehow bring the girls to the school, because if we will not educate them, then the situation will not come, because it will be continue. In order to change the situation, in order to make them feel that boys and girls are equal, because most of the time when I talk to some of the girl, they admit that no, male are superior than the females, boys are superior than the girls. They admit. Why they admit? Because of their ignorance, because they are unable to understand. So first objective was, anyhow we have to bring the girl to the school, so that they will be learning, they will be educating, and they will be realizing, they will be understanding that boys and girl are equal. Okay, irrespective of that only the physical anatomy of the body. So that is the only difference, nothing is a difference. Okay, so that time that objective was there, and that's why we have been forced to establish a boys school and a girls school. Otherwise they will not come to the school. What we will do? And we cannot change the mindset of a society overnight. It is not possible. In order to change the society mindset of a society, we have to educate them. And who constitute the society? Boys and girls, we and you constitute the society. Society is not coming from the heaven or from any planet. We are constituting the society, and in order to make aware the society, we have to educate. And at that time we have compromised with the philosophy of inclusive education, inclusive schooling, and we have established. So we cannot say that it is the fault of a management of or administration. Management is obviously not in fault, because management is just related to the execute the policy level decision. Suppose that I am a headmaster of a girls high school or a boys high school, purely boys high school. So I cannot take the admit the girl children. So it is not my fault. Even it is not the fault of the administrators, because at that time the motto was to bring them to the school, bring them back, let the dropout rate decrease. Okay, so that was the motto. So it is not a matter of a fault or something like that. Okay, that was the philosophy. Nowadays we are not establishing a girls high school or girls school, especially boys school. We are not establishing. It is not in the I think when you have seen the new education policy 2020, there is nothing like that boys girls education and the establishing institution specifically for the girls. ऐसा करके कोई word नहीं है, because now we have come up out of that. Okay, another thing is from the Mona Lisa, various agency working under the Ministry of Education, what should be their role for university grant? University grant commission is now क्या है वो खत्म हो गया. It is now not existing. Slowly it will be shut down, and that HEFA is coming, Higher Education Financial Authority. It is coming. So अभी उसका एरा चला गया यूनिवर्सिटी ग्रांट कमीशन का. Okay, there is no point of discussing the UGC now, because you are talking what should be the role. What was the role? If you could have asked, then I could have told you something. What was their role? But what should be the role? What will be the role? Now they have don't any role. They don't have any role. Okay, Mona Lisa.
जी सर, what was be the role of University Grant Commission?
Okay, so your question is now modified as what was their role. Okay, when we talk about the UGC, it was the regulatory and financing authority in the for the higher education. Regulatory means it was making the regulation related to the curriculum, related to the teachers appointment, related to the what to say, that the salary, related to the functioning. So the policy level regulation and a decision was taken by the UGC for the higher education only. And the financial part, it was also seeing that it was financing for directly some research project, financing the functioning of the university. You will find that even the Utkal University is also getting the financial assistance from the university. Some of the central university also get the financial assistance. So main function was to regulate and give the financial assistance, financial and the regulatory authority it was. Okay. Now it has been replaced with the HEFA. Okay, any question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if there is no question, I think we can stop this class. So thank you all for being with me. Now you may leave the online session.